Hey guys, Professor Bell, Comic Book University, and Captain America, Spirit of Truth, issue number 1. As you can tell, I lost my voice again. Seems to happen all the time. Anyway, and Bagel is here to say hi. So, we're going to be reviewing... Hey, stop looking at me. We're going to be reviewing this comic book now. Anyway, so this was surprisingly okay. I have very extremely low expectations for it because it seems to be taking a certain ride that I think enough of us have come to expect after a while, which really eliminates all but a few people to actually enjoying the comic book. It is what it is. But hopefully more happens. Hopefully it's taken into a better direction. Let's get talking about who made this comic book. And then we'll talk about the comic book itself. So the writer is Toshi Onyebushi. I'm butchering names. I apologize. Artist R.B. Silva. Letters by VC's Joe Caramagna and Jesus Abertov doing the colors. Cover artist Silva and Abertov. So a whole bunch of variant covers because it's an issue number 1 and it's Marvel and that's just the kind of thing they do. So in the American Southwest, which covers an awful freaking lot, so maybe this is Arizona, New Mexico, something along those lines. Maybe they said at some point, I forgot. Anyway, I'm going back and looking at this for the second time after reading it. Falcon is flying around trying to stop some bad guys. Here's the problem. Captain America's with him. But it's not the real Captain America. It's the Falcon. Yeah, I know. It's one of those things. Sam Wilson and Joaquin Torres are out doing this thing. Remember? Joaquin Torres showed up and he got turned into a bird-type creature, so they decided to call him the Falcon, and freaking Sam Wilson decided to call himself Captain America. I know. Somebody else said whatever. The guys at Marvel decided to call him Captain America. That's what happened. Shows up, kicks some butt. They're fighting against some Demolition Man-looking guys. No, not that Demolition Man. The group that existed for a short time. They had the Marvel figures made out of them. It came with the left leg, I believe, of the normal-looking Onslaught figure. I might be going way back for some of you. But anyway, that's the deal. The Capwolf character came with this. So, this, for all intents and purposes, this was pretty good. Sam Wilson was a little excessively violent. There's good with that. There's bad with that. But this is supposed to be a heroic comic book, right? We're talking about super heroes, right? Is this the Punisher? Is that we're going to make him a little bit more edgy by beating some people up really bad, making people lose extra teeth? That's a line that was in here. You'll lose even more teeth if you say, my mama paid you. Like, soft. Very soft. Aside from little nitpicks here and there, there's a cool part where it looks like Sam gets blowed the hell up. I mean, he's got the indestructible shield or close enough to it, right? So we know he's not going to get killed in the first issue. We're hoping he's not going to get killed in the first issue. It could be a possibility that in the first issue he says, Hail Hydra. Who knows? But that would be at the end of the issue. This was towards the beginning. That'd be a very special kind of comic book if he actually died and Joaquin Torres had to pick up the mantle and truly be the Falcon and kick some butt, right? But no, this isn't that kind of a comic book. It's your standard kind of comic book. So dude shows up, and yes, you're going to comment on my sunburn. I got burnt all to F out fishing, all right? It is what it is. That's what happened, all right? Anyway, so basically Sam, while he's unconscious-ish, he kind of goes back into a memory. And while he's out there, he kind of gets this... The memory is basically of a civil rights march. Or a civil rights speech, I should say. And then he comes back and he's tougher than ever and he beats up everybody, but it's only in one panel. And it didn't really have me the way that I wanted it to. It was a great idea, great thought that really wasn't executed the way that I hoped it would be. This could have been something. This could have been something where he comes back and he's just, boom, he's just a true badass and he whoops some ass and, boom, 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 boom. whenever you think of Sam Wilson, I think in general you think of guy who can fly, guy who talks to birds if they allow Red Wing to actually be in the freaking comic book. Usually Red Wing's nowhere around and he talks to birds? What? Cosmic Cube, what? But also, since the Marvel superhero Civil War, the original one in the comic books, he's also really good at giving speeches. Right? Something that he probably inherited from Captain America actual. But it is what it is. In this, he's also more of a civil rights activist. Here's where I'm going to get into where Toshi Onyebushi comes into play, the writer. This is off of, I guess, the Wikipedia page. So, take it for what it's worth. Toshi Onyebushi is a Nigerian-American science fiction fantasy writer and former civil rights lawyer. After publishing 3 books aimed at young adults, he released his first adult book, the Hugo Award, Nebula Award, and Namo Award nominated Riot Baby in 2020. He's 34 years old, born in 87, and he went to Yale, the Tisch School of the Arts, and Columbia Law School. That's a badass with some serious credentials right there. I'm saying. Also apparently a fan of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles according to certain pictures I'm looking at here. Look, this could be pretty interesting, and Sam Wilson is an excellent character for him to take up. I'd probably also like to see him take over for Daredevil once Chip Zdarsky is finished having his way with him. And her, because now Elektra is Daredevil too. Why do we change names? We have these characters. In real life, people just don't go around changing names or changing titles, throwing them around like that, right? Not superhero names. That's very different. You make a different character in my mind when you do something like that. It's very different from Iron Man changing his armor every couple of years, or the Thing suddenly becoming a pineapple for a couple of years. You know, like there are differences, right? There are differences that happen in the multicolors of the Hulk. But when you start switching titles up, there comes a time when you realize that your experiment has failed, and you try to undo. It's called a retcon. You try to undo the things that fans don't seem to take to. This is not Captain America. This is Sam Wilson, the Falcon. The most unwieldy thing in the world is a guy with wings flying around carrying a shield in one of his arms. It's never going to be aerodynamic enough, you know? So I'm not a fan of this from the very get-go. Compound it with the idea that it seems like it's going to be a lot about civil rights and things like that. You know, things that for the most part are over. Look, if you're heavily into the postmodern civil rights, liberal movement and things like that, maybe this is something that will interest you. The problem is that Toshi seems to be a pretty smart guy. And let's face it, people who are taught what to think as opposed to how to think, you know, like postmodern liberal types who still believe that the civil rights movement is a thing, they're probably not smart enough to get the kind of things that Toshi is going to say. I know I'm getting a little political here, but it's relatively important. See, I'm a guy who's been around the world. Obviously, saying that about a guy who, you know, is Nigerian I guess he grew up in Nigeria. I don't know, but I've never been to Nigeria. But I've been to a lot of other countries, a whole lot of other countries. I've seen the rich, I've seen the poor. I'm going to give you a Dusty Rhodes quote. I've wined and dined with kings and queens and sat in the back alleys feasting on pork and beans, minus the pork. But you get the gist, right? I've shaken hands with princes and hung out and had conversations with bums. And this is not just me saying things. I'm sorry, but I don't care. You name the places I've been outside of America and Canada. I'm talking United States and Canada. Every other place in the world I've ever been to is far more racist than anything I have ever seen in America or Canada. And that's just the facts, Jack. And if you've been to some of these other countries also, you would know beyond the shadow of a doubt, yeah, I couldn't wait to get back to America and Canada to have the faux racist stuff that exists around. I don't want to see civil rights movement stuff in goddamn 2022. I have 100% of zero interest in seeing nonsensical bullshit like that today in America or even Canada. And Canada has it worse than America. Make no mistake. America is literally the least racist country I've ever been to. And if you've never been outside of America, especially if you have been trained in a freaking, ultra-liberal college, university, like, oh my God, like most of the universities in America, you're going to say, what are you talking about? But you're probably going to yell it at the top of your lungs with blue hair or something like that, right? I don't want to see nonsense like this. This is extremely unimaginative. I simply don't see the world like that. And it's not white privilege to not see the world like that. No. It's being intelligent enough and observant enough and perceptive enough to be able to recognize, when you're in Italy and you go to a football game that's called soccer in America, but football in the rest of the world for the most part, and they're throwing bananas at a black player on the field. I don't want to see a single pink-haired wretch telling me that America's got a big racist problem. When I go to Saudi Arabia and I see the people, they call themselves white, but they're Arabs. They're not white, but they'll call themselves white. And they say to other Saudis, Saudi citizens, people born and raised in Saudi, but they have darker skin. Skin sometimes not even as dark as my wife's skin. And they will call them soda. Ya soda. Let me translate to English for you. Hey, blackie. See what scumbag gets away with that in America or even Canada. When I go to Egypt and I see people calling black people ab. Do you know what ab is? It's slave. It's the Arabic word for slave. By the way, there's lots of slavery in Africa, all over Africa. I don't know about Nigeria. That's not one of the places I visited before. But all over Africa, the entire continent, there's slavery. Also in the Middle East. When I go to places like freaking Far Asia, and you name the country in Asia, the ones I've been to, when they will actually go up to a black person and try to rub the chocolate off of their skin. Yeah, it fucking still happens to this day. I don't want a single colored-haired person coming to me decrying racism in America because it's bullshit. So when I see a civil rights movement thing in a 2022 comic book with a black character and people wearing dashikis, get the fuck over yourself. I am so done seeing the freaking wannabe. When you have rich people who control the media, I'm getting really hyped right now. Rich people controlling the media and making sure that we, the common folk, are always focused on women's feminist movements and ethnic movements and all sorts of different, oh my God, racism. Don't show all the white people being killed by police. Just show the black people being killed by police. And make sure that the captains and the chiefs are on board and they're not going to release any press statement or any actual video of the thing so it looks like it was just a massacre. So that when nobody gets fired, oh my God, you see how racist and institutional racism everything is? Get the fuck out of town. Because those of us who are smarter than this and who can see this and understand that it's these rich people who don't want you looking at them. Because the only real discrimination in the world is the rich versus the poor. Because at the end of the day, let's be realistic. And go and listen to Vlad TV, the interview that Michael Jai White had where he talks to that idiot Vlad, and he talks about the van full of, I don't know if they were Klan members, he didn't say, but they were white supremacists. There were like 10 of them. Walks right up to them and has the conversation with them and says, do black people steal from black people? Yeah, they say. Do rich black people steal from black people or white people? Well, no. Do white people steal from white people? Yes. Do rich white people steal from black or white people? Well, he comments on the hesitation. That was important, which is why I exaggerated it. We live in a world where we know that the media lies to us, but some things that the media tells us, we jump at it like a bunch of freaking idiots. Look, at the end of the day, some of this stuff is just ridiculous. I am so goddamn sick and tired of seeing stuff like this in the comics. And it's not just this. Go back and look at my review for the issue 0. All right? Where white and black Captain America were there. You know, Captain America Actual and Sam Wilson. Look at that video where I will talk about it in much more detail. Some of the stuff that I saw, some of the stuff that they were advertising, that they were promoting, the things that are going to happen. The White Wolf is, in fact, in this comic book. White Wolf being in this comic book and breaking into a federal prison to talk to Brock Rumlow, of all people. I get it. He's a Captain America villain. But he's not one of the most effective villains in Captain America's history, is he? And when he's drawn to be skinnier than I am, I mean, I at least have some jujitsu definition about me. What's this guy got? He's drawn to be so skinny, so little in this. I'm like, this guy's not a threat. This guy's not a threat. I'm not impressed by what I see. I was a little bit enamored, but because they didn't say his name right away. It wasn't until the very end where it says, you know, off panel basically. So should I call you Mr. Rumlow or Crossbones? I'm like, is this a new Rumlow? Like, that's actually Rumlow? It didn't look like him at all. How is this supposed to be intimidating or imposing? Or, oh, there's supposed to be a big threat to Sam Wilson. I need you to help me take over the world. What? I need you to help me take over a couple of countries. I'll even let you kill Sam Wilson. Why? Why? Really? Brock Rumlow? Build the freaking guy up. Don't just assume that he's some big threat. He's just not. He's not. I don't see it. There's so much in this comic book. I see some great writing ability. Unfortunately, I feel like, what's his name? Toshi. I feel like Toshi is coming into this and he's thinking, I'm going to do something amazing. But hasn't really read enough comic books to realize every single thing that he's doing in here we've already seen before. I'm sure there are going to be some young readers who are going to see that who've never read the things that are going to happen in this comic book as they're coming up, whatever. But for the most part, the audience is going to be slight. I'd be somewhat surprised if this made it to 12 issues. Maybe it will. Maybe it will. When Marvel has an agenda, they're willing to put whatever money they want into it. But for crying out loud, the last Falcon book went to what, 5 issues? Did it go to 6 issues? I can't remember. Is this one really going to go that far? I mean, they're calling it Captain America. I mean, honestly, I swear to God, I just don't see it. I don't see any of it. And they had Misty Knight in that one too. They had Blade in that one. So they made sure that they hyped up the black characters a lot. You can't just put black characters in a comic book and expect that black people are going to read the damn comic book. And the stuff that existed back in the day that today people say, that's toxic, can't use anymore. I know that people nowadays will look back on that Punisher comic book. Was it a Punisher comic book or was it? No, it was Cage. I think it was Cage issue number 2 or something, whatever. It was a Cage comic book. It was Luke Cage, and they called the comic book Cage. One of those issues, Punisher was in it. And for that one issue, he disguised himself as a black person, put on makeup and everything. Now, today, that's called blackface. Now, in reality, blackface is a very specific thing. Blackface in reality is when white people would put on a blackface just around the face and big circles around the eyes so you could see, it's not at all a black person. Nobody would ever confuse this person with a black person. So disguising yourself as a black person to go undercover or infiltrate, as Punisher was doing with Cage, you'd have to be a modern day, not too bright person who doesn't understand history, because actual blackface is criminal, or at least should be. Then again, you can also become the prime minister of a freaking country north of America if you do it no less than 3 times in university. And by the way, not as a student. No. He did that as a professor. That was blackface. When you're letting everybody know, I'm not really black, I'm just making fun of black people. That's blackface. But when you're disguising yourself as someone, that has never been called blackface. Nowadays, anything falling down face first in a freaking pile of mud and getting back up and not wiping your face before you get up is considered blackface nowadays. The fucking world is ridiculous at this point. I'm so done with all the stupid words that people are changing and whatnot. It's ridiculous. But nonetheless, I hung out with a lot of black people back in the day. I hang out with a fair amount nowadays, but family, things like that. But back in the day, I was nothing but in black neighborhoods. That's where I grew up. That's where I was raised. I don't know what Asbury Park looks like nowadays. It's just one of my homes. And I promise you, when we would go to the comic book store and we saw Punisher was going to be a black guy, nobody said blackface. And we knew what blackface was. Nobody said that. But we all said, holy shit, Punisher's going to be black. I hope it's going to be for more than one issue. We were disappointed when it wasn't. But that was one of the coolest freaking things in the world. Holy crap. He disguised himself as a black guy. Punisher's black for a day. Technically a month. It was cool. Everybody applauded that issue. Everybody who read it applauded that issue. Nowadays, we gotta cry. The real things, and go back and look up that guy. If you're subscribed to Marvel Insider, go look up that issue. Maybe go find it for free someplace. I'm sure you can. Go and read comic books that were good back when comics were actually good. Nowadays, it's like a freaking unicorn. It's like a Pegasus. It's like a unicorn / Pegasus, right? A horned winged horse, all white and pretty, and virgins are the only creatures who can go close to it. When you find a good comic book nowadays, most of the stuff is just, for the most part, it's just kind of crappy. And that's putting it lightly. I don't want to call things bad names. I see too much nonsense in these comic books. And all I want is a freaking good comic book. Oh my God, that everybody can read. People read Punisher. Black people, let me see. Black people, Latinos, Haitians. Because where I was, Haitians and black people weren't really the same. We all read the Punisher because he was cool. Nobody gave a crap what color he was. Nobody gave a damn. And there wasn't all this, oh my God, and we were much closer to the civil rights movement back then. Every so often there would be a case of racism because you know what? In the real world, every so often a case of racism shows up. Was it 3 years ago? That fat white bitch who called the cops on that little black girl who was selling water? Or was it lemonade? Whatever. It was some kind of a beverage. And she called the cops on her. Like, what's the matter with you? What's the matter with your brain? You don't realize how racist you are? Some people just don't get it. And it is what it is. Those people need to be culled. Eventually they'll die of old age. That's what we say about all the racist old people. Usually boomers. I'm a Gen Xer. We said that about all of them. We fought the fight against the boomers before there even were millennials or Gen Zers. So bite me. When millennials were called Gen Y. So back off, kid. Anyway. If you have a good story, tell a good story. I'm hoping this is going to be a good story, but I sincerely doubt it. A lot of us are going to get the issue 1 because issue 1s sell. And that's the reason why Marvel doesn't mind canceling a comic book at issue 5 or 6. Because they'll just wait a couple of months. They'll make another issue 1 and it'll sell. It'll sell. Because we're all hoping it's going to be good. This didn't quite meet the threshold of a shitty comic book. But right away I get it, that's where this guy comes from. That's this guy's, he's studying civil rights and stuff like that. Look, civil rights are important for everybody. I don't decry them. And there is racism in the world. And there's racism in America and Canada. Believe that. But it's not as bad as the rest of the world. And for somebody like me, I'm just not buying it. Including the comic book, I'm not buying it. If you've got a good story, I don't care if it involves racism, sexism, speciesism, like whatever the frick you want to do, all right? If you've got a good story, tell the story. But don't try and appeal to an audience. It's the worst thing in the world you can do. The absolute worst thing as a writer that you can do is try and target an audience. No. You look for your target audience, meaning young adult, children, right? Males, females. Are you going to categorize it for self-help, fiction, fantasy fiction, or science fiction, right? Or romance fiction, right? Straight up porn. Hey, I remember the Penthouse forums back in the day and those Harlequin novels. Never actually read one of those, but you know what I'm saying? Where are you going to target your books? You have to target a demographic. But when you start trying to target an agenda, I promise you, every single time, without a doubt, beyond any sort of recompense with your audience and yourself and your pen, you will fail every single time. I hope that Toshi has a plan to make something cool in the next issue. Apparently, Cat Falcon has to go and rescue Deadpool from Latveria. I hope it's going to be good. I hope it's not going to be too silly. When you put Deadpool in a comic book, it's going to be silly. I don't want to see a comic book make fun of itself. I'm not interested in seeing the genre insult itself or make jokes at its own expense. That's not what I'm here for. I'm here because I love the genre. I love the medium of comic books. Don't make a joke out of the things that I love. It's what makes people money, you know? That being said, how many issues were already written? Which direction do they go? I don't know. I'm going to take a look at issue 2. Will I review it? Maybe. I'm hoping it's going to be good. I really hope it's going to be good. But if it's going to be a whole, oh my God, there's racism in America, you will have failed. You will have failed. I promise you. I don't care how much Marvel supports the book or backs the book or whatever, they're going to be sinking money into it because the people aren't going to buy it. Don't believe me? Wait and see. Because at the end of the day, I've got a hell of a lot more history on my side than anybody else has on theirs trying to argue the opposite point. No. People want books that target against racism. No. Loud bots on Twitter do that. Loud, colorful-haired people usually extremely morbidly obese, freaky people with piercings all over, facial piercings and stuff like that, who are clearly weird and you don't want around your children, will argue things like that. But they're not going to buy your books. Don't listen to the loud voices. Listen to the ones who actually talk with some wisdom behind them. The ones that actually give facts and figures, not feelings. But hey, do what you want to do. I'm going to put my money where I choose to put it. Hopefully this book is going to be good. We'll see. In the meantime, it's right on that fence and it can fall either way. Either way. Anyway, guys, I'll talk to you later. Like the video, watch an ad, and pray for my voice to get better. Professor Bill, Comic Book University. Class dismissed.